There are many instances of how what you want distorts perception. No one can doubt the ego's skill in building up false cases. Governments are brilliant at this tactic because individuals are. The world and our existence in it witness to the ego's skill in building up false cases to buttress its argument for separation and specialness. Needless to say, the body is the ego's principal weapon in its macrocosmic and microcosmic strategy of waging war on God's Son by distorting his identity, shifting it from mind to body, from the Holy Spirit's thought system of forgiveness to its own embrace of judgment and attack. Nor can anyone doubt your willingness to listen until you choose not to accept anything except the truth. When you lay the ego aside, it will be gone. The very fact we are here is proof we are actively willing to listen to the ego's voice of madness. Yet the decision-making part of our minds can choose at any instant to lay the ego aside. This again is the fear that leads to the strategy of mindlessness that ensures we will never choose against the ego. We see how in movement after movement in our symphony these themes reoccur with increasing frequency and power. Jesus wants them so strongly imprinted on our minds that we will carry them with us as answer to the fact that almost everything we do here in this world attempts to fulfill the ego's plan of keeping us mindless through specialness and projection. The Holy Spirit's voice is as loud as your willingness to listen. It cannot be louder without violating your freedom of choice, which the Holy Spirit seeks to restore, never to undermine. If we do not hear the Holy Spirit's voice, it is not because he is whispering, but because we choose not to hear. Recall in chapter 2 how Jesus appealed to Helen's freedom to choose, a central theme in our symphony, by telling his scribe he could not take away her fear. Jesus does not overpower us, still another important theme. He does not depreciate the power of the mind, but gently and lovingly reminds us that the power to find peace rests within. The ego optimizes its strategy of preventing that realization from reaching awareness by having us focus exclusively on bodies, ours and others, in an ongoing pursuit of specialness. What follows is a very clear statement of this prime motivation of the ego. The ego, which always wants to weaken the mind, tries to separate it from the body in an attempt to destroy it. Yet the ego actually believes that it is protecting it. We have seen how the ego's attempt to destroy the mind sets up a real conflict within us. It uses the mind to establish itself as real, and then through projection uses this same self to make us mindless. In this way, the ego has its cake of separation and gets to enjoy it too. In truth, however, we as egos are undermining the very mind that gives us our existence, a situation that can lead only to heightened anxiety. It highlights the precarious nature of our lives. Since the real source of our discomfort is kept out of awareness, the ego triumphs again. This is because the ego believes that mind is dangerous and that to make mindless is to heal. This clearly states the nature of the ego's thought system. To the ego, the mind is dangerous because it has the power to extinguish its reality. What saves the ego or sustains its existence is making us mindless. Understanding the ego's motivation clarifies everything it does, including the complex intrigues of its special relationships. Just as clear, then, is the Holy Spirit's undoing of specialness through forgiveness, the return of God's Son to his decision-making mind that is the true healer. But to make mindless is impossible, since it would mean to make nothing out of what God created. Again, this is the paradox of the ego's thought system and the source of its fear. It tries to establish our mindlessness. At the same time, it is the mind that enables us to believe we are mindless. Thus does the ego desperately try to push this fact out of awareness by making a body that focuses only on what is external to the mind for its existence and sustenance. Because we are quite subtle in maintaining this mindless state, it is essential to make this important point still again, that we understand the ego's strategy. We then can appreciate the importance of recognizing the text wonderful symphonic tapestry in presenting and representing this principle. Such understanding also helps us to recognize the ego's slyness in attempting to undermine our recognition of what it is up to, an added element being its clever and quasi-military use of the tactic of division and attack, to which we will now turn.